Hey everyone, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to the first episode of PDRA Live. We are here at race number 1 of the PDRA World Tour, and it brings us here to Galot Motorsports Park for the PDRA Fuel Tech, the Eastern Nationals presented by Fuel Tech.
Yeah, right.
So, very exciting deal that Wes Buck and Tyler Crosno has put together, and they virtually came to us and said, how can we showcase the PDRA in a different way? And with PDRA Live, it's something that we want to bring new to the fans and all the supporting sponsors that we have. And PDRA has shown that it is continuously evolving and one of the quickest and fastest drag racing organizations in the world. And how we're going to do that, obviously, is through PDRA Live. It is we're scheduled to do 8 episodes here in 2022, and it's just exciting to be back here at the racetrack to take things off. And everyone knows the off season is always one that just drags on forever, and everybody can't wait to get back out and see the new race cars, the new combinations, new sponsors, new paint schemes, everything that everybody has worked so hard for over the off season is showcased virtually here at the first race of the season. And absolutely beautiful weather so far we have had here at Galot Motorsports Park, and a lot of great stories that we want to talk about and showcase here in our first episode of PDRA Live. And Scotty, of course, you and I are the voice of the PDRA going into our 3rd season together, and we have quite the blast in the tower, and as I always say, the best seat in the house. We get to watch each and every run down the racetrack as things unfold on a Thursday test session all the way until champions are crowned on Saturday night. And we have obviously ourselves had the off season to watch the stories unfold and reflect on really what's going to transpire this season. And I think a lot of good stories that you and I have talked about. And, of course, with the Drag Illustrated crew, I should say, we conversed about just a little bit ago. But going into this this weekend is let's start with Pro Nitrous. You know, that is one of the most exciting classes we have here in the PDRA. And without a doubt, one of those things is,
well, I think before we get to going in that, should we bring in Nate and Wes into the program?
I thought they were going to pop in. They're hiding in the background. So there they are.
I was starting to get I was like, come on now. So the sweet sounds of the drag strip, right? I hope everybody knows that. Like we were worried about that noise at the be like, oh man, is the background noise going to be too much? And it's like, no, this is what people want to hear, right? The sweet song of a Pro Boost car, Pro Nitrous car coming out of the water, man. Thank you guys for having us. Great job introducing the show and getting this thing started. Big honor. I think I can speak on behalf of all of us at Drag Illustrated that it's cool to use every tool that is available to us and take every opportunity to highlight the men and women, the cars, the stars, and everything, the venues, the events that make the sport of drag racing great. And I think toward the top of that list is the PDRA, man. And, of course, Galot Motorsports Park. So thank you guys for having us.
No, and of course, thank you, Wes, for everything that, of course, Drag Illustrated does for the PDRA. And as you were talking about, is we're constantly evolving and trying to make this a better organization each and every year. And I think by seeing the car counts that we have here at the first race of the season, the pre-entry list is the biggest we've ever seen it. It's a very strong car count in our professional categories and our sportsman categories. As I talked about, a lot of new faces that we've never seen before here this weekend. So when people ask what is the status of PDRA, I have to say it's alive and well, and it's growing at a rapid rate. And another thing that we can't shy away from is the fact that we have gained numerous new marketing sponsors over the off season. Will Smith and the marketing crew has done a stellar job, and I contribute that to obviously the media coverage. Is second to none. And obviously you guys teaming up and creating this PDRA Live is just another great option that we have to really showcase the sport of the world's quickest and fastest 8th mile drag race.
And I feel like it's the product kind of sells itself. We have a great group of racers and very competitive classes here in the PDRA. Anybody could win any day, I feel.
Correct.
Let's dive into some of those classes. You guys were talking about Pro Nitrous to start there.
Next time we're getting ready to launch.
So as you're talking about, let's dive into things.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into Schweitzer Dynamics Pro Nitrous. And as everybody knows, if you follow the world of PDRA, Jim Halsey. I mean, that's all you got to say. Jim Halsey has absolutely dominated Schweitzer Dynamics Pro Nitrous. And virtually the entire class right now, and has been, they've been chasing what Jim Halsey has had. The combination, the car, the team, it is just working flawlessly. And we've seen great runs out of many other competitors, but on race day, the cards have fallen in Jim's way. And being a 3-time PDRA world champion is something that really nobody else can say. Back-to-back championships, and it's on the mind of so many people. Can he make it a 4-peat? What has other teams done over the offseason to better their program and chase Jim Halsey?
I don't think it's due to lack of effort, because a lot of guys have definitely procured new equipment and people and all sorts of stuff to try to catch him. I mean, he has a stranglehold on the class right now.
Yeah, like you said, you've got Chris Reaney diving back in after taking a year off and running Big Dog last year. Jay Cox made an engine change to Musi Power. I think Tommy Franklin, and his Marcus Butner, his teammate and sponsor, also ran well last year. I think he's back out there this year, and you can't ever leave out Tommy Franklin. And I think those guys were trying something. To your point about trying to catch Halsey, I think they went outside the box and were trying a lot of different things last year. Towards the end of the year, it seems like they caught on to something and may be strong to start this year.
Yeah, and as we talked about, I mean, we always hear of Jim Halsey dominating, but there's been a lot of other drivers and teams that have made really good runs. I mean, for instance, let's talk about Mike Achenbach for a second. I mean, a guy that is really a strong runner. He's made very impressive runs. He made it to the winner's circle last year in one of the most chaotic races that I've ever seen. I mean, you name it, it happened to Mike Achenbach.
That was wild.
And I mean, it was a very deserving win. So there are and teams that are out there that can definitely overcome what Jim Halsey's stronghold on the class right now. But it's one of those things that when all the stars align, and I think hopefully we see that this year. And Tommy Franklin, I know he is absolutely chomping at the bits to get that Jungle Rat Chevy back in the winner's circle.
And I tell you, when Jim does happen to take an early exit, which only happened a couple times, it almost becomes a free-for-all in the Pro Nitrous pits. I mean, everybody really goes after it at that point because this is our chance. He's finally got knocked off. So.
And one real quick I want to touch on is Jason Harris. Of course, they made the switch to Pro Boost and their Party Time Camaro. They ended up selling that and brought the big dog car back out last year. And now they're committed of Schweitzer Dynamics Pro Nitrous. So him and his dad, Bob, I think they're going to be a name to be reckoned with. They made some nice runs last year. And obviously they have some R&D and testing that they already have under their belt running Big Dog. It's a little different animal over here. But Jason, back when he was running Pro Nitrous full time, he was one of the top contenders. So there's a lot of names. He's a former world champion. There's a lot of names that we cannot forget that I think are going to bring something to the table this year. Because let's face it, everybody is after that one guy, and it's Jim Halsey. So you're going to see a lot of people swing for the fences.
Do you guys agree that there's no better motivation for some of these guys than being on the outside looking in for a couple of years? Like you think about all the dominance that Tommy Franklin has enjoyed, and the last 2 years kind of being like, I should be up on that stage. I should be in that winner's circle. I can't help but feel he's headed into 2022 with an enormous chip on his shoulder, and that's dangerous for everybody else.
Correct. And we get and as I talked about our vantage point here in the tower, you get to see the raw emotion each and every pass out of these teams and crews that are on the starting line. When you see that number appear on the scoreboard and they're popping off a 365 or something that's very strong, you see that raw emotion because they're those that are back in the pit working round after round, pass after pass, weekend after weekend. And to see the hard work pay off for these teams is awesome. So I think you're going to see some new winners this year, first-time winners on tour, and new cars, obviously, that we haven't seen before. So the growth of PDRA and Pro Nitrous overall is and I'm excited for that going into this weekend. Qualifying is definitely going to be interesting tomorrow.
I tend to agree, man. I think that Pro Nitrous, it's really something that the the PDRA should maybe, and not that they don't, but it's such a unique animal, right? In the world.
The last place really where that exists is that nitrous cars separate. You know, here in the Southeast and the Carolinas, where you guys are right now, that's where nitrous cars were born and bred, and it's kind of the last stomping grounds for that type of car.
And I think, Mike, you know it best, obviously, for all the years that you've been around this with you and your dad, of course. But when you think back to early pro modified racing, nitrous. I mean, all these cars had nitrous. We didn't have pro chargers. We didn't have turbos. A lot of these new power adding combinations weren't available then. So to still have pro mod nitrous racing around and so strong here in the PDRA is really cool, because as a grassroots pro mod fan, you think to nitrous, and we still have that class here, and it's not going away. It's not dying, and it's taken back off, and that's awesome. So,
amen, brother. As Wes likes to say, from your mouth to God's ears.
I think it's a fantastic thing, and I know that it's like a highly controversial thing to talk about pro mod running all these cars and whatnot, and it is a fun thing for all of us to debate. But the fact of the matter is that I can't imagine the sport of drag racing without nitrous cars. I mean, I really can't. Like the drama, the visual stimulation that comes from a nitrous car, like a pro mod nitrous car, a pro nitrous car, I think it's irreplaceable. It stands alone, in my opinion, in the sport of drag racing. Between the purges, the header flames, the hood scoops, the sound, those behemoth 900 plus engines.
We'll lead off with this is I think, you see those new combination Pro Boost, the Pro Chargers, the turbos, things like that we can run in that other class. You look at the numbers that they're turning, the elapsed times, but when you look at nitrous cars, they're keeping up. 365 in a nitrous car is huge. So the technology is just continuing to evolve, and like I said, it's not a dying class by any means. I know some people think that, but it's not. And you come over here to the PDRA and you see that, and there's enough cars to fill both classes. I know last year sometimes we didn't fill the full fields, but this year rolling into race number 1, we have full fields. So that's really good, and I hope it continues. And I know we spent probably a little too much time on one thing, and I want to roll into Pro Boost because that's another exciting growing class here at the PDRA. And talking about car counts, it's a full field this weekend, pre-entered in Pro Boost.
I want to say there's over 20 years, so some guys won't actually get to even run. So I mean,
yeah, Pro Boost was looking strong all winter. The stuff we saw with new entries and all the hype going into that class kind of reminded me of what we talked about with Funny Car and Top Fuel, where those classes are not necessarily having a resurgence, but just having a lot of new blood, a lot of interest on them. And I feel like Pro Boost is really a strong class, especially with the addition of the Pro Chargers the last couple of years.
We had a tremendous points battle in the 21 season, and it came down to the actual final round of the season.
I mean, how cool is that?
I mean, it doesn't get
that was wild.
Yeah, and you've got all that. Most of those guys coming back, like Stedding, Tutterow, Weatherford, Camp, they're all coming back, and then you have some new faces in the class. Eric Latino's here this weekend.
Yeah,
Deckers are in here.
That's a huge name, Eric Latino. I mean, Wes, you guys know that. Obviously, Mike and Nate. Eric runs a lot of NHRA stuff. The Decker family, they're no stranger to pro mod racing. So to have those names here, that's awesome. And I want new blood. I want new names. I new sponsors to come in. And that's what it's all about, So
it sounds like a big influx of cars from Canada now that the border is open.
Yeah.
And I think that's a worthy point to make. One second, we'll wait on this wicked awesome burnout.
Well, I mean, talking about our neighbors to the north, the Canadians. I mean, we have one of them right now testing. So, I mean, we have, I believe, at least five drivers that are here from Canada, and it's no easy drive coming across the border all the way down here to North Carolina. So you factor in the cost of fuel right now, the cost of parts, how hard it is to get parts right now. It just again goes to show that people are committed in supporting the PDRA and they want a place to race. So and I think they want to race in a organization that has really strong competition. And when you park your car in a winner's circle at a PDRA race, you know that you worked for it. It wasn't given to you. You have to run strong. You have to run fast. And you're making A to B runs each and every time you come to the starting line. So that's awesome. And I really hope to see our Canadian friends run well this weekend.
I think you're going to see, I think the PDRA, by all accounts, has established itself as this ultimate proving ground for the outlaw door slammer, right? And I think that, to your point, Derrick, if you've got a PDRA trophy, if you've been in the winner's circle at a PDRA national event, that is an accomplishment that you can hang your hat on. You know what I mean? That is something that will last you a lifetime, right? I mean, I can point to my old man, my dad, getting the job done with Justin Kirk last year at Bowling Green, Kentucky, the big door slammer derby there. And it was like, that was a crowning achievement for him. And a guy who's done a whole lot of racing and been all over creation racing, that was such a massive, monumental moment for him. So you're exactly right, man. The PDRA, I honestly think, has done a tremendous job nurturing their talent, really giving these guys an opportunity to go head-to-head with the best in the world, pro-level outlaw drag racing. It's an incredible thing. And I do want to just say, amongst the group here, kudos to all these, thank you to all these racers that made this tow. I mean, this is a wild world we're living in, right? And whenever Nate and I were in the green room getting ready for the show an hour ago, I mean, that's what he was saying. Like, dude, this is like incredible. The amount of cars here, the energy on the property is palpable. The pits are packed full of people. And personally, I say this a lot, but I mean it. Like, my heart swells with pride. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's so cool to see this many people willing to put it on the line, spend this kind of money, travel internationally to go drag racing. I think we all get a little bit like numb to that, like desensitized to like, this is a big deal. People are driving across international borders with trucks and trailers paying $5-6 a gallon for diesel to go drag racing. This is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's a high level of commitment that they've made to get here. And I think, too, is when you show up at a PDRA national event, you show up here, there is no better feeling than rolling around the corner into the water box here at Galot on a qualifying session or race day and seeing a couple thousand people in the stands along the fence. And Galot is always one of our best races with spectators. It draws in a great crowd here at Galot. It's a really supportive motorsports community around Benson. And I mean, I know people drive a couple hours even to get here to come watch pro modified racing. That's another thing you hear about. I mean, man, if you don't have fuel cars, if you don't have this or that, fans aren't going to show up. No, these are grassroots drag racing fans that love pro modified racing. And we're sitting here in the tower on race day, and you're watching, 2 or 3 people deep along the fence, out, 400 feet down the racetrack. They've got, people, heck, last year you had a guy proposing to his wife in the stands. He was so excited to bring his wife to a drag race.
I bet she was thrilled.
Yeah.
She was. We might have embarrassed her a little bit in front of everybody, but it's memories that are made with families that are, you can last a lifetime. And going back here to Pro Boost real quick is talking about new blood, new faces, new names. I don't want to miss out on the fact that Preston Tanner, they have worked so hard over the course of the inception of their program. They bought a couple different cars and so forth, and then they really found their direction of what they wanted to go. And a lot of people think of, you get out of junior dragsters and you go to like a super comp car and you work your way up. Well, we've seen a little bit of change over the years. I started myself there at drag race since I was 8. Did the super comp car and so forth. Well, a lot of the kids now are going into different things, whether it's top drags or top sportsman, right, to pro mod. But Preston, he's impressed me for a couple different reasons. The kid is really smart and mature. He got behind the wheel of this car, and obviously it's a lot of horsepower. It's a lot of car to handle. And every pass that I've seen him go down the racetrack, he's used his head. And he's drove really, really smart. And I think as a newcomer in the class, a lot of veterans look at that. Who are they lining up next to? Is this kid going to just drive this thing regardless.
Like he stole it? Yeah.
Wall to wall and not care. No, he's came about it in a really smart, sure way. And his dad, of course, and his mom and Lexi, it's a great family operation. They've worked tirelessly to get where they're at. And they've tried a couple different combinations and so forth. And this year is huge for them, I think, because they've got obviously Todd Tutterow power and getting Jeff Pierce on board again to help tune that car. And I guarantee you that name, Preston Tanner, is going to be a name you're going to see in the winner's circle this year. That's going to be a new first-time winner here on tour in Pro Boost. That's a bold prediction.
I love it. I love that. Sure. That's a bold Nate.
Yeah,
it feels like you're holding on for dear life. So
I don't have the best technical setup here.
It's a work in progress.
We'll work on that for the next one. My computer's in use in the other room.
But Nate, I want to hit on that real quick. Is you cover these races, day in and day out. You're the one staying after the race on Saturday night, putting press releases together, talk to people a lot. You hear what's going on in the pit area. I mean, what's your opinion on that? I mean, you've talked to Preston and his family a lot.
Yeah. That's a family that they've been involved in the PDRA since the beginning. I know one year, several years ago, Preston and his sister Lexi, they won Junior Dragster World Championships together the same year. Lexi, she's racing in Pro 632 this year. I'm sure she's going to have a really great year as well. But like you said, they've just they've been refining their program over the last couple of years, and I think they're to a point now where they're really going to kind of take advantage of everything that they've been working on.
Absolutely, and I think too is you see the media coverage that PDRA gets, and it just pushes people more and more to want to be, in that winner's circle, to get on the, in Drag Illustrated or the various media outlets that we have. And again, I mean, as a reward, as a rookie in the class, and I think there's a lot of marketing potential too. I don't want to miss that. Is the media coverage that we get here at PDRA, the amount of fans that we get in the stands, and the you look at the facilities that we go to. They're virtually all racetracks that have an NHRA national event or an NHRA divisional event of some kind. So they're high-level facilities that are very suitable, condonable to these pro-modified cars. So I think from a marketing standpoint too, is Preston and a lot of these new guys in this class are very marketable people because they are racing with best of the best.
What can you guys say? I know that I think we got to take this opportunity as often as we can in all the different venues you guys are going to travel to in 2022. What can you say about Galot Motorsports Park? Like, I think that what is there just watching you guys and this morning getting ready for this show and seeing all the shots of the track, and we're moving the camera around trying to figure out how we're going to do this. And I was just reminded, this is like the Taj Mahal of 8th Mile drag strips. It's almost unbelievable. Stadium style bleachers, incredible. I mean, fast Wi-Fi. I mean, even that is incredible.
Yeah, the fact that we can even do this show is a miracle.
It really is, and I think we got to give those guys a hand, a tip of the cap, because that it's no small investment they've made in the sport of drag racing, and they've made a significant impact, especially out on the East Coast. Obviously, there's drag strips everywhere in North Carolina and South Carolina, but Galot Motorsports Park, in my opinion, stands pretty much alone as a world-class 8th Mile drag racing facility. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like it.
It's almost like it was purpose-built. To me, it's like when you walk in there, it's like this place was purpose-built for a PDRA race. It's like that was in mind whenever they renovated and redid that whole facility, because that facility's been around for, 50 years, and it recently was renovated to be what it is now. And we've talked about this on the show a lot, is that, and you named some of the tracks and your partners that you guys the tracks that you guys go to throughout the year are all well-run facilities run by people and families that care. And that makes such a difference. And that translates so well to what PDRA is all about.
And I want to take a minute on this. Is let's think, because you just said something, Mike, and I think Scotty, you appreciate this, because back in the day, I mean, Scotty's family used to own a race. I mean, they still do, but you grew up at a racetrack and you know what it takes to run a racetrack day in and day out. But what is cool is the PDRA is family owned, and it's a huge family here at the PDRA. The family aspect is very obvious. It's not hidden. And look at the facilities that we go to. Galot Motorsports Park, family owned. Virginia Motorsports Park, family owned. Summit Motorsports Park, family owned.
It's no coincidence.
Beach Bend.
MIR, back to being family owned. So, the Beach Bend, you can't forget that, them and how many years that it has been family owned down there, and just the history of that place. So a lot of really cool tracks that we go to that each in their own aspect have something unique about them. But what brings it all together is it's all family. It's family owned. It's one big family. And it's not some big corporate driven facilities too. So that's really cool. And going back, and I know you guys will be able to touch on this, is that we always talk about supporting local businesses, supporting things within the industry. And I love nothing more than supporting family owned businesses. And that's what we bring here to the PDRA. So I think it's really cool. It's something that maybe not a lot of people have ever thought about or look at that aspect. But it just adds on the uniqueness of what we have here.
I couldn't agree more, man. And it's
well said.
Very, very well said. And I just want to interject here briefly and say that you guys are killing it. So take me off the screen, JT. They see me enough. The people see me enough. No, it's seriously, you guys are doing a fantastic job, and I appreciate you guys doing this. And I honestly think this is going to be a significant thing, as we continue to move forward with this program and do more and more episodes of these shows. You guys are doing a fantastic job. I don't want to force the issue, Scotty and Derrick, but how big a talk is Extreme Pro Stock? I mean, holy crap! I don't know that
it's talked about.
Don't you think it's the hottest thing all winter?
Absolutely.
And here early in the season, I think it's been the hottest topic when it comes to PDRA.
And I tell you, being an older drag racing fan, it does nothing but warm my heart to see that class come back, man. Because that's what we grew up watching back in the Ricky Smith days and all that stuff.
Old.
Yeah.
You can tell. Yeah.
It's a purist, man. It's a purist class for sure.
Absolutely. And it's awesome here this weekend with the amount that have shown up to race. And that just makes it all show up and worthwhile, because we hear about a lot of things, but to see it actually come through and they're all here, it's like, oh wow, this is gonna be one for the ages, I think.
They're going to steal the show. Mark my words. They're going to steal the show this weekend. That's and there's cars that are coming that aren't ready yet. Right. No, so, I mean, you've got 15 on the property this weekend from what I understand.
Correct. And I think, I would be hard pressed to say that we're not going to have a full field. I think we will have 16 cars. I might be wrong.
It was 15 last night.
I've been wrong before.
But we're set.
And I want to see that, because Mountain Motor Pro Stock Racing has been around for so long. Wes, you can speak to it better than I can. You
Probably
lived it growing up and everything, but it is literally, it is just grassroots racing, a clutch pedal, shifting gears, and it hasn't changed much over the year. Yeah, the chassis have evolved.
It evolves,
and stuff like that. But when you get down to the mechanicals of it, it is still a clutch car with a shifter and a
no power adder. And
wrap your head around.
It's the classic thing. There's no replacement for displacement.
When God dreamt up drag racing, he was thinking about Mountain Motor Pro Stock, right? It was on day 8, I think. He took a break on day 7, right? Rested. In day 8, dived right into drag racing. And I think the first order of business was Mountain Motor Pro Stock. And you're exactly right, man. These cars are badass. People sleep on the fact that these are 800-inch, Mike's saying, like, these things burn gasoline. No alcohol, no nitro, no nitrous oxide, no pro charger, no turbos, nothing. Pure horsepower. And the fact that these cars run bottom 4s and will undoubtedly be in the 3s, I think, on a relatively consistent basis at some point in the next few years, it's unbelievable. Even with a clutch, manually shifted, they're aggressively geared. Those things got the wheels up when they're grabbing second. And it's a nasty, nasty class. It's a driver's class. And again, it's another, the PDRA has been lucky to have several of these jewels in the treasure chest. But I really think right now, last year, I think I would have pointed to like Pro 632 as being this something that people are sleeping on. Like, this is such an incredible category. And it still is. Pro Boost is fantastic. Pro Nitrous is too. But if I had to say what I was most excited about for the PDRA in 22, it's definitely Extreme Pro Stock. They've got a monster in that class. And you guys are exactly right. It's so awesome to see it rejuvenated the way that it has been in recent years.
And rejuvenate is a perfect word. And what I want to say is, like, there's a trend. So the trend, back in the 80s and 90s was IHRA Mount Motor Pro Stock racing, and it kind of died off going into the 2000s, I believe, and things. And then it's been here at the PDRA, but it hasn't taken off like it has this year. And you obviously seen NHRA run. They did some exhibition stuff with quarter mile Mount Motor Pro Stock racing starting last year, year before or something. And this year, I don't know what happened over the off season, but there has been some marketing partners, some social media outlets and stuff that I think has pushed and worked hard to get it to where it's at. And there's obviously phones are ringing and people are calling each other. And there has been just something that is just reborn, like give it rebirth. And you've got cars that haven't been out in 2 to 3 years, have been sitting on projects, and people all of a sudden are said, we're putting our stuff together and we're coming out and racing. And that's awesome. I love that.
I'm not going to say this selfishly, and I'll wait for this burnout here. I'm obviously biased. However, how much in this, and maybe call me crazy, but I think when you see some good old boys wearing Dickies work shirts and Carpenter jeans and Red Wing work boots win a PDRA national event, I really do. I point to Buck Brothers Racing winning the Door Slammer Derby at, they've won a couple of those too over the years, but I really do. I think those stories, when they can do it, these guys run a repair shop. Right? These are some mechanics. They still got their work shirts on, and they came out there and went to battle with the Johnny Placinos and the John Montecalvos and got the deal done. Well, and the next thing I know, I see Tony Gillig showing up, right? Because I know that had to remind him, like, man, if those guys are doing it, we can do it. And, it's no secret that that's done on a shoestring. It's done on a very modest budget. And I think that we need more of those underdog stories because it kind of just – it plants a seed in people, especially those people you're talking about that have a car or have the stuff to do it, but have just been kind of on the outside looking in or feeling like they didn't have a chance to be competitive against the larger, better funded teams. The Buck Brothers is a perfect example. That's an older car, older combination. And like you said, Derrick, cars sitting on Pro Jacks that have been racing 2 or 3 years can get their stuff together and come and be competitive. You can't say that about really any other heads-up door slammer class. If you leave a Pro Nitrous car sitting on Pro Jacks for 2 years, you might as well like throw it away because everything else has changed. Well, the next time out, you need to race top 14.
I think it too is what helps that class is that you can have a good chassis, you can have a good competitive car, park it for whatever funding issues or whatever. You just want to go a different way. You want to take some time away from racing. And come back and still be competitive. I mean, let's just say this. You take 2 to 3 years off of NHRA Pro Mod, PDRA, Pro Nitrous, Pro Boost, and you bring that same stuff out, you're lucky to qualify. And so what I like about the class, it's not dominated by electronics and power adders. So, again, it's grassroots horsepower. And, yeah, I mean, parts, are evolving and stuff, but you can still be somewhat competitive with stuff that are 2 to 3 years old. And the guy that loads his stuff up is coming out to test and hasn't been out in a while, still has hope. And, that's huge. I don't think I would want to show up to a race and know right away, there's no way that we're going to be competitive this weekend. No, you can still be competitive.
Well, that keeps a lot of Pro Mod cars on Pro Jacks, like you said, because that's the problem in a lot of those classes. But because, like you said, it's evolved, and I think the technology has evolved incrementally, but it's still at the base of it, clutch activated, manually shifted, and it's a driver's class. All those things, and no power adders, all those things go together to make it, have longer longevity for the parts and pieces that you got to put into these things.
Wes, you brought up Gillig, and I think it was here last year that he went quite a few rounds, maybe made it to the finals. I don't remember, but he certainly wasn't
won the race
car on the property.
He won the deal. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think Tony Gillig's the best driver, one of the best drivers in all of drag racing, certainly one of the best drivers, if not the best driver in Extreme Pro Stock. And that dude's going to be a problem for everybody this year.
I mean, it's not cubic dollars. It's not. He wasn't the fastest car by any means for the weekend, but he was doing his job on the starting line and getting it done, you know.
It's a fantastic, and I know an argument can be made. Like, I've had conversations with people from other walks of the racing life who are quick to point out, like, man, those cars are running the same as they were 10 years ago. But I try to remind people, we're not in Bonneville.
That's kind of a good thing.
I think that's the magic of it. I really do. I think that's what is so special about it. And I think sometimes classes evolve so quickly. I mean, if you think about how far Pro Nitrous has come, I mean, I remember when Shannon Jenkins went 399 with a 2 down the right-hand lane there at Valdosta, Georgia, at South Georgia Motorsports Park, and it set the world on fire. I mean, it was like nobody's ever going to go faster than that. That's
16 years ago.
Yeah, shit was flying out of that thing, right? I mean, it was like parts and pieces were coming out the headers.
I mean, we had to take Al Tucci out on a stretcher. I mean, he almost fell over from a heart attack.
Right. I mean, it was a bonkers moment. And then you fast forward to today where, like, no one's really surprised if Jim Halsey cracks off a 359, right? I mean,
He gave us a great stat the other day, Wes, if you remember. In the time period since the first Pro Stock car or Mount Motor Pro Stock car went a 4 flat or whatever it was, however many years ago, Pro Nitrous has lowered their bar 0.4 of a second in that time. So in that same time period where these guys are still working to crack it below that 4-second barrier, Pro Nitrous is almost a half a second quicker than it used to be.
Well, and talk about like veterans and you know, just some really cool names in the category. We're talking about Tony Gillig and of course Chris Powers is back trying to, you know, defend a world championship. And they had truly a special season for so many reasons. They ran some really good elapsed times, but they were racing for a purpose last year. And of course that was for late Sonny Leonard, and they accomplished that goal, that dream that they had. And that was just so special. And then of course to see, you know, at the banquet to see him get crowned with that championship, it really meant a lot. But let's talk about, if we're talking about true veterans of Mountain Motor Pro Stock Racing, there is 2 names that you cannot leave out, and that is Roy Hill and John Montecalvo. You got John Montecalvo, a former world champion. Roy Hill, everything that he's done in Mountain Motor Pro Stock Racing over the years, and they have combined forces. And maybe it was those 2 names together, I probably would have never thought that they would have teamed up.
Seems like oil and water.
Yeah, I mean, you know, but it's really cool, and I think they bring a lot to the table. And Roy has always been a Ford guy with Ford factory backing and so forth. He has a good relationship, all the way dates back to the Petties, and everything that he got to do to get his drag racing career started, and work up to where he is today. But he's always been a Ford guy. And then John Montecalvo, virtually, I mean, he's always really, that I remember, drove Chevys. And I think back to the day was the Ditko colors of the Cobalt that he's winning world championships with. Then he had the newer Camaro that he got rid of, and now he is behind the wheel of Roy's Ford. And you got to think back, that car that John is running this year did well in an HRA Mountain Motor Pro Stock Racing with Mike Well behind him. So I know that John got a hold of it, took it to his shop up in New York, probably put a few of his touches on it. They're out here testing today. But I think that is another name and team that is going to do big things this year.
I agree, man. And it is an interesting thing. I think there's a lot of fun storylines to watch when there's things like this, because I think about John Montecalvo as an extremely, autonomous guy, right? Very successful, has his own business, and has always owned his own equipment, has always been able to, you know, drive it like he stole it if he so chose, right? Because it's his stuff. And I'm anxious to see how John adapts to a situation where essentially he's a hired gun driver, and he's clearly got the ability to live up to that title, but it is a different thing. And when you've seen John Montecalvo have all the success that he has, he's been on the cover of Drag Illustrated, he's won multiple world championships. Will he have to change the way he does anything? How will he respond to having a team owner or a cohort, I guess, that could give some feedback, and we all know Uncle Roy is capable of giving some feedback. So I think it's going to be a fun storyline to watch. But I agree 100%, Derek, that they will definitely be a threat.
He made a test run earlier, and he's not missing a beat. I can tell you that. He was right there pulling the quicker ETs up the set.
And then real quick is I think, too, as we're talking about all these new names and faces, but there's a 3-car team. And it's almost, like the elites of the world. How many cars are they fielding? 3 cars in an extreme pro stock team is huge. Kurt Neighbor, that's a big name that you've heard around Mountain Motor Pro Stock Racing. Derrick Reese, Mike Reese, that's a family operation. They're all 3 teamed up this year. And of course, Mike and Derrick a little bit newer to the category. But Hal Harrison has, took over the tuning duties. And I think that is it's truly special because obviously you follow drag racing, about what happened to Cal a few years ago and his devastating crash. And it was a guy that virtually overcame and defied all. And it was not a good situation that he was in. And he has worked so hard mentally and physically to get where he's at. And, I think there's no better therapy or rehabilitation in any way, regardless of how many years ago the crash was, to get out here and tune 3 race cars. And they have a great tuner. Cal knows what he's doing, and he was successful when he was behind the wheel. So those are 3 names with Kurt Neighbor, Derrick Reese, Mike Reese that you're going to have to watch for going into qualifying starting tomorrow.
I'm excited for Cale, man. I've known Cale Aronson I've met Cale in like 2004 maybe. So it's been a long time, and he's got a storied history. He's obviously his father had enormous success in Mountain Motor Pro Stock drag racing, multi-time world champion, if I am correct. And Cale followed in his father's footsteps with a Mustang, with a Ford, with a Kazi powered, but he went the route of Outlaw 10.5. It's been a while since we've thrown that around, right? PDRA actually responsible for basically bringing it back right now in Super Street. But Cale made a hell of a run in Outlaw 10.5, won multiple races, was a multi-time winner within the Clash of the Titans series in the Midwest, and moved into Mountain Motor Pro Stock with a Kazi power plant. And to your point, Derek had a very tragic accident that ended up derailing his driving career. But it's so good. It's so good to see him back out here on the Outlaw 8th Mile doing what he does and lending an ear and offering his tuning expertise and overall program operation expertise to that new team. It's going to be fun to watch those guys this year. And great, he's a personality too, not at all afraid to say what he thinks, puts himself out there. He'll be a great addition to the class, in my opinion. Yeah,
I mean, and there's a lot of, as the episodes go on throughout the year, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, 8 episodes that we have on tap this year with PDRA Live. And I can't wait to get some people on and talk with him, and he's definitely going to be one. And as let's roll into 632. I don't want to forget about that class. It's a class that is definitely up and coming, and it's a class that we have seen as, I wouldn't say so much an entry level class. We got some really good cars, really good drivers. We've seen people graduate out of there. I mean, Cameron Caruso, for example, came out of 632. She's in pro stock now, and that is a team. I mean, I just want to hit on Cameron Caruso has been running really well in the NHRA.
They're the real deal.
Yeah, no doubt.
And her dad. And that's another thing. You're talking about their engine program. I mean, back a couple years ago, when the Gray family, I believe it was, running their engine combinations, it's set for a couple years. And I'm like, man, wonder what they're going to be like. Wonder how far are they behind the curve. And they came out swinging. And she's done very well. So hats off to her. And the Powerboat Tools team, that's really cool to see. And I think it just goes to show you can progress out of that class and do some really good things.
Dylan Voss this year moved up to the pro stock ranks here in the PDRA from 632.
Wes DeStefano, champion. He's into Pro Nitrous now. So it's cool, and it's bringing in new blood. And that's another thing you talk about is look at the performance out of a 632 cubic inch engine that these cars are running. It's
bananas. Bananas.
Yeah. And you talk about engine builders, and I think that you look at NHRA Pro Stock and engine builders, it's kind of the engine builder battle in 632. You're pushing so much horsepower out of that 632 cubic inch engine. And there's a lot of different engine builders out there. And I know a guy that's really committed right now is Phil Oakley of Oakley Performance down there in Kentucky. I think they're throwing a lot of their engine combinations. They've been growing their business over the past couple of years. And of course, Lexi Tanner is running one of their motors. And they've done a lot more testing. So I think going into the 632 category, Lexi Tanner is going to be a big name to watch with veterans like Darryl Stewart and Chris Holdorf. She's going to be mixing it up. Amber Franklin.
I was just getting ready to say we cannot leave out. And how cool is it? I'm not. We're actually just a couple of weeks away from dropping the latest issue. We just dropped a new issue of Drag Illustrated today, but we're not too far away from our annual Women of Power issue. And it just reminds me of how incredibly lucky we are as a sport to enjoy the diversity that we do. I mean, no other motorsport and no other sport, in my opinion, enjoys this kind of parity amongst men and women, young and old. It's a really incredible thing. And to have Amber Franklin and Lexi Tanner diving into Pro 632 this year, obviously Amber's got some runs under her belt, but that's just going to be a fun storyline to watch this year, in my opinion.
And you got to remember that Amber Franklin only raced, I think it was 2 or 3 races last year. She came in at the end of the year, and they ran really well. I know that when I was talking to Tommy, they threw that combination together kind of blindfolded. He went to Pat. Pat said, let's try this, this, and this. I know they were going through some converter issues just because of the power they were putting down, and they were trying different converter combinations. They've already been out testing because they own a racetrack. Let's face it. It's easy to test. But no, I think she has a lot to prove in many ways, and I think her and Lexi they're looking to just flat out kick the guys' ass this year at 632, and that's going to be cool to see.
I mean, you say she has a lot to prove. She's had the car out twice and made 2 final round appearances. So, I mean, that's a pretty good start to getting the job done. But I mean, you can't let Stewart and Holdorf, the veterans of the class. There's been some rejuvenation in Holdorf's camp. He started coming on strong at the end of last year. And Stewart with Clayton Murphy and Chassis Engineering, they have been really good. Yeah. Yes. They've
really good.
Amazing numbers. So I think it's going to be an exciting year in 632.
You're still going to have Shameless Racing. They brought on Walter Lanigan to drive. That car is going to be another threat. World record setter, multi-time champion. They're going to be in that mix as well.
And Walter Lanigan is a really good driver. I mean, so you put that combination with Walter behind the wheel, and it could be the same situation that we've seen last year with Wes DeStefano. I mean, parking that thing in the winner's circle numerous times. So a lot of, again, good competition, a lot of good teams that are worth effort and coming over here to try that class out. And I'm sure there's going to be new faces, new names, new cars, and so forth. But, Wes, I want to hit again on the diversity here in the PDRA. And the diversity starts, I think, all the way down in junior dragsters. And we have seen an influx of, females getting involved in drag racing. And it goes all the way from junior dragsters all the way to NHRA, Top Fuel and Funny Car and so forth. And you see those professional drivers, and you look up to them. They become your heroes, your mentors, and things like that. And I think that, again, has transpired over here. We have females in the PDRA that junior dragster drivers look up to. The Melanie Salemis of the world, the Amber Franklins, because they've seen them. They graduated out of juniors. They're in big cars now. The Ricky Molnars, I mean, she killed it last year in Top Sportsman as well. I mean, Top Dragster, excuse me. And just like Camry Caruso, as I talked about, started in juniors, worked her way up. She's done a lot of things, ran an A-Fuel car and pro mods and whatever, and now she's found a home in pro stock. But that's what I love to see is new blood, new faces, the diversity here, and it's not one-sided.
Those success stories are very valuable, right? I mean, if you're a young kid I mean, and I don't mean to make too crazy of analogy here, but I mean, the numbers are so big. Like if you're dribbling if you're 10 years old and you're dribbling a basketball in your driveway right now, let's be honest. I mean, you're at 1 in a bazillion that you're going to play in the NBA, right? Yep. But if you're a kid in the pits right now of the PDRA national event at Galot Motorsports Park, and you're racing junior dragster, it is not that much of a stretch to think that you're going to be rolling out there under the lights in a few years or in 5 years. I mean, that's an incredible thing. Those success stories, and they're everywhere. Sean Langdon, J.R. Todd, Erica Enders. I mean, as you mentioned, all throughout the PDRA and other sanctions and series, there are innumerable examples of kids who started out in juniors and worked their way up the ladder and are now household names in the sport of drag racing. So it's an incredible point, man. And I don't think that we can talk about it really enough because it's an inspiring thing. And I hope more people, see that as like, hey, there's not a whole lot of other sports where that ascension is there for the taking.
We were at a race last year, and I remember Scott. Distinctly remember this because Scotty and I looked at each other, and I had to pick his jaw up off the ground. But I do that multiple times throughout the weekend. But and
you got to touch that goatee.
It's better than the bald head. But anyways, it was in Pro Junior Dragster. 16 spots were separated by 0.006 of a second, and you talk about how close the racing is in our professional categories. That will make your head spin. 16 cars within 0.006 of a second, and numerous kids didn't make the show. They were back on the trailer, loaded up, going home. And so, it sucks not to be able to race on race day, and it's tough because the thing about drag racing is there's only one winner. It's not a huge team effort that all the boys and all the girls are out there on their basketball team or football team or whatever. It is solely you, the driver. You are going to make or break that run and turn on a win light or not. So it instills upon you in a young age sportsmanship and just shows that it's not easy out here. And that was just really cool to see how close that field was. And another thing is we talk about all these sponsors that are coming into PDRA, the professional categories and all this stuff. Well, let us not forget is the junior dragster drivers are getting great publicity and coverage through social media and print media and so forth. And they have inked huge sponsorship deals. And I want to I know that Courtney Enders last year put a lot of effort into the 2 junior dragster categories. She kind of rallied everybody up. Parents got on board, and there was some specific marketing directed towards the junior dragster classes. And next thing you know, 3 or 4 of them inked legitimate sponsorship deals, and they are out marketing and branding companies out there, and they are getting a lot of coverage out of it. So it shows that it is possible that you can represent a business, whether it be within industry or outside of industry, non-motorsports related, and get good media coverage out of it here at the PDRA.
I agree 100%, man. And if nothing else, no matter what happens in those young men and women's lives as far as racing, those experiences, that being humbled the way that drag racing will so frequently humble you, it's an experience that will pay dividends for the rest of their lives. And dealing with those companies and being in front of a camera and having to kind of play the part, right? It's such a valuable experience. And it's cool that the PDRA has put together a place that really fosters that those kids
PDRA is the best place in the country to race a junior dragster. No one treats their juniors better than the Franklin family and the PDRA. And it really starts with, I think from the time the PDRA was formed, that was at the forefront of what they were wanting to do. And being a family operation themselves, they kind of brought that to the table. And I think that it's paying dividends. The things you just said, the attention, the media coverage, the sponsorships. I mean, cars going home, kids loading up and not qualifying and going home in junior dragster. Where else do you see that? And so I really think that it's seeds that were planted a long time ago that are paying off for the PDRA and the junior dragster competitors.
And Nate, I want to touch, you obviously going back to what you do with the PDRA and covering it from the media standpoint for Drag Illustrated. You do those interviews, you're down there in the winner circle, seeing those kids, seeing their parents. And I mean, just from your standpoint, it's got to be special because there's a lot of raw emotion there to watch your kid standing on the starting line and seeing your kid win a PDRA national event. There's tears flowing. There's a raw emotion. You're not hiding that. And to see a kid hoist up a 660 man in the winner's circle, there's nothing else like it.
Yeah, and to the point of the challenge of going home early, not qualifying or losing first round, you're not making a 30-minute trip home. These are kids and families that travel from all over the country to be at these races. Some of them are pro mod racers that are racing, the moms or dads are racing and they throw the junior in the trailer, but there are also a lot of families that load up the junior dragster, or a couple of them, and they travel all over the country. And this is a nationally touring series. You get to race for a world championship, which is another huge draw. There's a lot on the line, and it's it's proven that it's a deal that works, because so many of the names we've talked about today came out of the junior dragster ranks. Amber Franklin, the Tanners, even people behind the scenes like Evan Salemi and Ty Tudorow. It's a great proving ground, whether you want to become a driver or on the mechanical side.
And just learn the nuances of our sport, right? It's such a valuable experience. And I want to just take a quick moment to echo those sentiments, but just remind people that these truly are our sport's next generation, right? And I can't count the number of times I've heard somebody say, "What are they running these things for?" We got, man, it's the absolute wrong approach. We have to cheer these kids on. We have to high five them. We have to encourage them, because God forbid they do something else. God forbid they take up traveling baseball or soccer or something horrific like that. I mean, we need them to do this, and we need them to feel good about it. So I challenge everybody this weekend and every weekend. You see a kid in a fire suit, fist bump them, pat them on the helmet, wish them good luck, be up there, watch, and support what they're doing, because our sport badly needs them. Think about where drag racing would be right now without second and third generation racers, right? I mean, we may not have any.
Exactly. And as we're talking about evolving and doing new things, just like PDRA Live, what I think is really cool, we found a sponsorship we brought back, is the Top End Zone this year. So, if you're watching, if you can't make it and you're sitting at home or at work or whatever, and if you're at work, you're definitely not getting anything done. But I hope you're getting paid. But
that's basically how we do things here at Drag Illustrated. We try to just get paid.
You're speaking our language right now. Yeah.
But no, I mean, the Top End Zone grabs that raw emotion when you get out of the car and you win that, and you turn on that win light, or you park it in the winner's circle in the final round. Nothing is better than being down there and watching those guys and girls get out of their cars, and their crews getting down there and giving them love, and everybody's excited, whether it's a career best DT or a round win or the event win or whatever. So that's back. We got a sponsor for that, and I'm glad that, again, our marketing team is working as hard as they are. Will Smith, in and out every single day to try and add new programs, to get new people in here, and that is another addition. Added value to flow racing.
That's huge. The Top End Zone is huge. I think, like you said, it's the best opportunity to showcase the emotion and to get to know these people. Otherwise, we only see their car throughout the weekend.
Correct.
That's a huge deal.
To put the face with the name, I think the Top End Zone, to me personally, is really special. I think back to the Top End Zone and Brian Olson. Brian, he was the face of that. And we miss him dearly. I had huge shoes to fill up in 2015 when I took that over. And it's a special place down there. And I can't wait to see the drivers form that and build that relationship with who our top end interviewer is, and be able to relay that to the fans out there, because I mean, even though that it's a live show, you can go back and watch it, and I know that families love to do that, sponsors love to do that, but it's just another added value here to the PDRA.
A huge value, Derrick, and I appreciate you bringing it up, man, because kudos to the PDRA on another home run addition to the program, because we fail to realize sometimes that not everybody wins all the time. Some of these folks may only do it once, right? It may only happen for them one time. So if they don't have that opportunity to be in a winner's circle and be interviewed, all of that is part of the memory that's going to keep them coming back. And that's how you set the hook and get a guy going from racing one or two to running them all, man. And it's those moments, those experiences, pretty powerful, man. Pretty powerful.
News stories. I mean, things that you wouldn't have known unless you got the opportunity to talk to them. And we've stepped up at the PDRA with our media coverage in-house. Jason Reese, I do want to give a shout out to him. He's at home right now fighting cancer. He's kicking cancer's ass. And that guy has not given up. He is in the fight, charging hard. And Jason Reese has done a killer job with what he does on social media and the cool stories. I can't tell you how many times I've learned new things to be able to talk about through what Jason has done in the pits. And when Jason came on board, him and I roomed together at a few races last year when his first time was at PDRA, and he was like dead at the end of the day. I'm like, dude, what happened to you? He's like, I've walked like 10 miles today. I've been back and forth in the pits. And I'm like, we need to find you a ride. Like, oh my gosh. But he's out there pounding pavement, making those relationships, getting those contacts. And now that's paid dividends because people are calling him and sending him messages and stuff. So he's able to relay some great stories on PDRA social media, another media outlet that has a lot of following, a lot of exposure. So that, and I can't stress it enough, is we are in a time that, companies look at how they spend money. They were trying to be cost effective. Things aren't cheap anymore. You want to get the best bang for your buck. And to support PDRA in a marketing standpoint, with Drag Illustrated and all these other great companies that we have on board, the reach that you're getting is in the millions. And we always ask ourselves, how can we reach the most people in the most cost-effective way? And I think this is a great cost-effective way that you can reach all over the East Coast and beyond. So it's just exciting because you continuously see new people wanting to come on board and be a part of it. And it's only going to go up from here. And I just like we started this PDRA Live. It's only going to go up. I can't wait till the 8th episode when we look back at our first one and be like, Derrick, you butchered the intro.
But at this rate, we're going to be doing 72 episodes.
But I mean, it's really cool. And I want to personally, I want to set up an email address. I want to get our fans out there to start sending in some questions that they want answered, some things that maybe they can't get out and ask a racer of their choice, or tech questions or things like that. And we want to get the fans involved, because without the fans, we wouldn't be here. Without sponsors, we wouldn't be here. So definitely that's something that I want to do, where if you got questions for Scotty and I, we want to get those questions answered, and we want to do it for the fans.
Guys, thank you so much. Seriously, this has been, I think, an absolute home run. I think we're going to wrap this bad boy up. I know you guys got a whole lot of work to do. And, hey, man, best of luck this weekend. Seriously, keep up the great work. We'll be watching along on Flow Racing, huge supporter of ours here at Drag Illustrated, the West Buck Show, and, of course, a big-time partner of the PDRA. Keep up the good work, man. You guys, you crushed this first episode, and I'm glad to be the guy in the little window on this one. And I hope we can keep that up. No, I like it, man. I like it. No. Go back. No, this is
Thank
fantastic.
you guys, man. It was awesome. Like you said,
Seriously.
if this is the first one, we've got big shoes to fill by the time we get to number 8.
Correct.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks again.
you.
And
See you guys.
we're excited. I mean, so glad to be back in PDRA 2022. And make sure you guys are watching Flow Racing. Make sure if you can make it out to Galot Motorsports Park, that you are here this weekend, race number 1, 2022 PDRA Championship World Season.